Welcome back to Rocky Mountain Gardens. My name is Mary, in case this is your first time stopping by my channel. And today, guys, I will be presenting to you a video about my recent trip to South America, where I visited the countries of Argentina, Uruguay, and also Chile. So we'll just jump right into the video, and I hope you learn a little something from it like I did on this trip about the history and culture of the people, and also a little bit about geography, because don't you remember when you were in grade school learning about South American countries and Tierra del Fuego, which I never thought I would ever go to in my life. In any case, let's go and see how this trip went. We began our tour of Buenos Aires by coming to this Plaza de Mayo, which has this monument here commemorating the May Revolution in 1811. The Argentinians began their revolution against Spain for independence. Now you can see the Casa Rosada, which I learned about, I remember, in grade school, because, you know, we have the White House in America and they have the Pink House in Argentina. Have you seen the musical Evita? Well, if so, where you see the white arrow is where Eva Perón would stand to greet her people of Argentina. What you see here is a very special monument. It is an obelisk that celebrates the 400th anniversary of the foundation of Buenos Aires. Just like the United States, Argentina has a large immigrant population from many different countries, and many of them settled in this neighborhood called La Boca, and they have painted their homes and businesses with these really bright colors. It was very unusual and so pretty. In the evening, we went to a dinner theater with this beautiful restored building where we had delicious Argentinian beef steak and saw a show about the dance that originated in Argentina, the tango. We left Argentina at sunset, and here is a beautiful view of the city of Buenos Aires. Our next stop was at the beautiful city of Montevideo, which is in the country of Uruguay. It is the capital city. Honestly, they had these beautiful sycamore trees that lined all of the streets throughout the city. We noticed that in South America, there are many, many flowers, trees, and bushes planted right in the middle of the cities in beautiful plazas. This beautiful fountain here was in the middle of one of the plazas that we visited. And there we are, me, my brother Jimmy, and my sister-in-law Mary, and in front of one of the many homes that were built in the European style. Our next port of call was Puerto Madryn, and here you can see a view of the Argentinian Patagonia region. Patagonia is a region, if you look on the map here, that extends into both Chile and Argentina. It's in the southern part of the continent, of course. And with this little map, you can see where the port is where we stopped and saw our first penguins. We drove quite far to the Peninsula Valdez, where the first animals that we saw were these sea lions on the rocks. There were many. We saw them from different vantage points. Many of them gathered here. And the darker ones that you see are the babies. Sea lions are different from seals because the males have a mane growing around their face and head. And it was quite a long drive, but worth the wait to see these lovely animals. We made a stop at a nature center for a potty break, and there I saw this interesting Patagonian armadillo. If you're familiar with them in the US, you know this one looks quite a bit different, but still as cute as can be. Next, we got our first views of a penguin, and this one on the beach here is actually a Magellanic penguin. They only live down here in the southern part of South America and were discovered by Ferdinand Magellan on his trip around the world. You may remember him from history. He made the first trip around the world. And here's a close-up of one of the cute little guys. Isn't he darling? Next, we'll be seeing a beautiful view of the rocky shore on this peninsula. And as we got in the bus to drive back to the port, we came across a herd of guanacos, which are native animals related to llamas that live here on the Valdez Peninsula. And this herd just walked so close to our bus. It was really lovely. And can you see how dry Patagonia is here on this side of the Andes Mountains? It is very dry, and it actually reminded me of Wyoming. And then, of course, here is a close-up of a guanaco who wandered quite near our bus. They were really cute animals with fuzzy fur. The next day was quite a disappointment because we were supposed to stop at the Falkland Islands for a visit to a penguin colony. So we were very sad about that, but the high seas prevented us from going there. You know, the weather just was not controllable. So here instead, we sailed down to Cape Horn, and here you see a first view as we came upon the Cape. Our ship sailed closer so we could get views of these beautiful rock formations there at the tip, the very tip of South America, where you are only about 90 miles away from Antarctica. It really was a thrill to be so close to the Antarctic continent. Can you just imagine being one of the first Europeans to discover this part of the world? And here is a monument that was erected by the government of Chile for remembering all the sailors who have died over the years crossing through this part of the world. The symbol of the monument that you see there represents an albatross. Our last stop in Argentina was on the island of Tierra del Fuego at the town of Ushuaia. And this port is a sort of a jumping off spot for trips to Antarctica. And here you can see two ships that are there right for that purpose. This is a view of the Beagle Channel, which was traveled by Charles Darwin during his famous voyage around the world. And we took an excursion that allowed us to have a cruise through the Beagle Channel, where you could see lots of wildlife, such as these imperial cormorants. Everyone at first thought that they were penguins because the coloring is so much the same, but you can see that they're obviously birds that fly, unlike penguins, and there were just thousands of them everywhere on the rocks in the channel. It was lovely to see so many. Next, we came upon this beautiful lighthouse that is a landmark in the Beagle Channel. It was wonderful to see such abundant wildlife down here on the southern tip of South America. I actually took this video through glass from the catamaran that we were traveling on the channel with. And in just a bit here, I'll show you a panorama of the southern Andes Mountains that come right down to the sea here at the town of Ushuaia. Our catamaran dropped us off at the Tierra del Fuego National Park. We're still in Argentina at this point. And you can see on the sign here that it says that it's over 17,000 kilometers from Alaska, which equals about 11,000 miles in English measurement. So we are way far south on this trip. Here's another view of the mountains. And then our guide actually took us on a hike through the national park where we saw many of the native trees that grow there. And many of them were covered with lichens and moss because of, the frequent rain that they receive down in this part of the world. Our ship next sailed up the Strait of Magellan to a town called Punta Arenas. And from our ship here, you can see the beautiful sunrise we had that day. When we arrived, we did an excursion with a guide who took us up to this high point above the city where you can see the Strait of Magellan and our ship out there, the white one, in the sea. And notice with the roofs of the town how they're painted quite brightly, lots of colors. Well, in the past, our guide told us that the snow would get so deep here, all the way up to the rooftops, that people used the color of their roof to identify where their houses were, which is quite interesting. So here's the town, and it was really a lovely little place with a gorgeous museum that we went to as well. Here's a beautiful sign in the early morning sun. And it says the Strait of Magellan in Spanish because you can see the strait right below in the picture. I was very excited to see this full-sized replica of Magellan's ship, which was called the Now Victoria. Isn't it gorgeous? But guys, it was such a small ship for an around-the-world trip. Here are Marianne and I standing in the bow of Magellan's ship. And in the next photo, you can see a picture that I took of Charles Darwin's ship, the HMS Beagle. And it also was quite a small ship for such a journey. What followed next were 2 days at sea because of very bad storms with up to 20-foot waves. The captain of our vessel was very good about taking care of us. And he even made the effort to take us in and get a good look at some glaciers. And so all was not lost at all, and our journey went on just very well. We knew that we were getting closer to the glacier when we saw ice floating in the water. Our captain was very obliging. He took the ship pretty close into the glacier, and he actually turned the ship 360 degrees in a circle so that no matter where you were standing on the ship, you got a good view of the valleys with the glaciers coming down to the sea. It was just fantastic. What a thrill, my first glacier. When we came to our next port, which was the town of Castro on the island of Chiloé, beautiful, colorful town, I was able to capture just when the sun happened to peek out. Now, in this part of Chile, there is about 200 days of rain every year. So to catch the sun was a great opportunity. So the southern part of South America is known as Patagonia. When you're on the eastern side of the Andes Mountains, it's very dry, as we saw earlier in the video. But on the western Pacific side, it's very wet, like a rainforest. Hence, the constant rain, of course, that I mentioned. We drove through this beautiful countryside of the island of Chiloé on our way to the National Park of Chiloé and entered what is really a wetlands forest filled with really interesting plants, such as these red-barked, they're kind of spotted with red bark trees that are called arayan, and they were found throughout the forest. And you can also see there all the moss and lichen that is growing on the trees. Here's a close-up of a stand of these arayan trees. This very large leaf plant is called gunnera, and I wish I had put my hand near the leaf so you could have a comparison of how large they are. I felt like the one leaf was as large as myself. Now on this next photo, you can barely see that there are thorns on the underside, and on the tops it's very prickly to the touch. And the last photo here is a picture of the flowers of this plant. It is a fascinating plant, and the Chileans actually eat it. They pick the leaves when it's early spring and the leaves are tender and cook them up. But it was so prickly I can't imagine eating it. This was about a 3-mile hike through the wetlands. There's my brother Jimmy ahead of me walking on old logs. And guys, look at the tangle of the forest. And these trees here are called tapu, and they're found all throughout the forest, a native plant. And of course, here is a beautiful fern. But guys, if you touch this fern, it was so prickly. It was as if all the plants had their defenses in the forest. If you're still hanging in there with me for this video, I'm at the second to the last place we stopped on the cruise, and that is a place called Puerto Montt. And here I am showing you a photo of the houses on stilts that come right down to the sea. They're quite colorful, and I just love the way all the colors are used in South America. It's so pretty. Now, we had two really exciting things to see while we were at Puerto Montt. One was the Osorno volcano, and sadly enough, as you can see in the picture here, it was in the clouds, which isn't that hard to imagine because of the amount of rain they get. In the second photo, you can see a picture when the sun was out of this beautiful volcano that is covered by a glacier. The last time Osorno erupted was in 1869, so it is currently considered dormant. The second natural wonder that we saw in this area were the Yanquihue Falls, and oh my goodness, it was fantastic to see. So first, as we walked over a bridge, we saw this basaltic lava flow right here, and then we had a beautiful glimpse of the falls as we approached with this really pretty blue color. And here you can see a video of part of the actual falls. Here's another area where the water flows through, the lava flows and down from the river, the Yanquihue River. And you can see the volcanoes in the background. Actually, Chile has quite a few volcanoes in this region of their country, which is called the Lake District. Here I am looking downriver, and you can see how sort of a turquoise blue the water is, and our guide told us that was from the basalt from the lava flows that have dissolved in the water turn it that color. And here's another still photo of the same area. On day 15, we disembarked from our ship at the port of San Antonio, which actually is the port for Santiago, Chile, the capital of that country. And we had a drive through the countryside, which was lovely, and a stop at a local spot for a snack in this little sort of funky looking restaurant. But it was so beautiful on the inside, and the food. We had homemade empanadas that were so delicious. And of course, local wine to drink with it early in the morning even. We also had a tour of the city of Santiago, and here you can see the National Cathedral on the outside as well as the inside decorated so beautifully. And here we are at our very last stop, me, my brother, and Mary Ann, where we had a delicious meal of salmon and a really fun show with local culture. I really hope you enjoyed seeing my adventures in South America. And if you have any questions about our cruise, please comment down below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And here's a last look at the country of Chile. I hope you are all having a wonderful beginning to spring, and I will be back soon with something having to do with gardening this time. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video, and bye for now.